evening, 5:15. Time for our bi-monthly meeting. Please rise. Pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you everyone for coming this evening. The roll call will show that all council members are present. And I'm honored tonight to be able to present the National Fire Prevention Week proclamation for October 6th through 12th, 2024. Whereas the city of Carroll, Iowa is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting Carroll. And whereas a home fire escape plan includes 2 exits from every room in the home, a path to the outside from each exit, smoke alarms in all required locations, and a meeting place outside where everyone in the home will meet upon exiting. And whereas home fire escape plans should be developed by all members of the household. And whereas a home fire escape plan provides the skill set and know-how to quickly and safely escape a home fire situation. And whereas practicing a home fire escape plan twice a year ensures that everyone in the household knows what to do in a real fire situation. And whereas Carroll's first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection education. And whereas the 2024 Fire Prevention Week theme, Smoke Alarms Make Them Work for You, effectively serves to educate the public about the vital importance of developing a home fire escape plan with all members of the household and practicing it twice a year. Therefore, I, Gerald Fleshner, Mayor of Carroll, Iowa, do hereby proclaim October 6th to the 12th, 2024 as Fire Prevention Week throughout this community. I urge all the people of Carroll to develop a home fire escape plan with all members of the household and practice it twice a year, and to participate in the many public safety activities and efforts of Carroll's fire and emergency services throughout the year. And I think this is a very important proclamation to remind people of. We don't think of it every day, but you know, the more people that have a plan to get out of their house, it's going to save a life someday, so I think this is a very important one to serve as a reminder. And speaking of the Carroll Fire Department, I want to remind people of one other thing, and that is that I'm planning to give this to you, Dan. This is your annual fundraiser, the $2 dance, which I intend to give a little bit more than that, but I encourage people to support the local fire department by donating to their cause. All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda, including approval of minutes of the September 23rd and 30th, 2024 meetings, approval of bills and claims, licenses and permits, including a new 5-day Class C retail alcohol license at Free Bar Company LLC, new 5-day special Class C retail alcohol license, Lucky Wife Wine Slushies, and renewal of Class C retail alcohol license with outdoor service, Rancho Grande. The last thing on here is a firefighter appointment, Matt Burgard, which I understand, Dan, makes you complete in the fire department. That's another nice thing tonight. Good timing.
Yes, it is.
Thank you very much. I'd look for a motion to approve if there's no discussion needed.
Second.
All right, Tom and Jason, seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Jerks?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Strack?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Atherton?
Yes.
Ordinary?
Yes.
Motion's approved.
All right, are there any oral requests or communications from the audience this evening? These are on items that are not on the agenda. Would anyone like to come up and speak on any cause?
I'd like to speak on the 2-mile radius.
Okay, that, well, that's on the agenda, but we weren't really, it was just going to be a session between us and the county supervisors. It wasn't really planned to be a discussion evening with the public, because we certainly will have that before we reach a decision. Okay. Anything else? All right, we'll move on to city and county 2-mile zoning 28E agreement discussion.
Well, just to start, Mayor,
Okay.
as you are aware, or the council would be aware that yourself and I met with Stephanie Hansman and Mike Anderson regarding the conversation of the 2-mile. We asked them to come to the council to present what their proposals were. If Mike and do you all want to present tonight, or do we just want to ask questions, or what would you like to do?
However you wanna proceed, I don't care.
Okay, so, the council, I would recommend the council ask some questions of the supervisors, and then we can get some information, look at the legalities and the, alternatives that are being proposed to us, and sit back and make a decision as far as, maybe probably in a work session later to, make a decision on where we feel we should go with this 2080 agreement.
Steph, you wanna come on up then? Okay, go ahead and make sure you introduce yourself and give your address.
Good evening, Stephanie Hausman, Chair of the Carroll County Board of Supervisors. Thank you for taking the time and looking over these options in this memo that Mike and I had drawn up. We gave options 1 and 2 in no particular order. But first off, I want to say 7 years ago, before when I became a supervisor, there was all this talk of the city and the county never having a joint effort or working well together. And I'm hoping this presents an opportunity where we can bridge that gap and we can work together, have conversations, and do what's best for the citizens. I know we're gonna all have our own opinions, but we also have to think about, we're all elected in, and the most important is that we have to think about the citizens. So I do think you guys have probably the memo that was handed out, options 1 and 2. Did everybody take a look at that? Okay. That's really all I wanted to say was, one, thank you for allowing us to come and present to you guys, and hopefully we can have discussions and good conversation to come up with what's best for the Carroll County constituents, and especially the 2 Mile residents. That's all I have. Mike, do you have anything?
Not yet.
Any questions from,
I got one question on the open, you're gonna have that discussion with 3 supervisors and 2 council members, is that correct? If there's a disagreement?
Yep.
How did that number come up?
Mike, you wanna come on up? I got a question, just see, might be a few for you.
Mike Anderson, District 2 Supervisor. So, if you look at my flow chart, I guess, sorry, it's kind of, right now, when it gets appealed by the P and Z, then it comes to the city. And we thought that we should have a joint council with city council and supervisors. Favor to the supervisors because it is our county taxes, is why we came up with that.
So is that gonna be an open meeting?
Yeah, it could be.
How can you do an open meeting
I don't know, we'd have to
when you
talk
have
to
3
legal.
people?
Okay, then,
You can't have 3 people and the supervisors and have an open meeting
okay.
with only,
Mike, would you clarify?
or a closed meeting, I should say.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
That would
Upper
be a-
left,
No,
hold on a
open
second.
meeting. Yeah,
It'd
you're
be
right.
an-
It would have to be
It'd be an open meeting,
Yeah.
yeah.
okay. I missed, you were talking fast. On your flow chart.
Yep,
Upper left, 2 Mile zone permit.
yep.
What does this flow chart represent
If you live in the 2 Mile zone and you come to the city to apply
for,
a permit,
yeah?
A zoning permit or a building permit?
a building permit,
Building permit.
yep.
Okay. And you're asking that now the P and Z take over building permit decisions in addition to zoning decisions?
No, if you follow,
Yeah,
if it's denied by the city or the building department, then it goes to the P and Z, is what my understanding is.
that's not how it works.
Okay?
This is a flow chart, Mike, more for zoning issues.
Okay?
This is not a flow chart for permits,
Okay.
building permits. Neither they, and Dave, correct me, neither P and Z nor the council, we do not act on building permits, correct?
Sarah, can you come up?
So that's, yeah.
Well, what you're talking about is our building
When does,
When they did the
committee that,
when do the 2 Mile P and Z get involved? At what
2 Mile
point?
P and Z when they did the change to an A2 district or a commercial district, correct?
Go ahead and introduce yourself first.
Sorry, Sarah Haverl, Carroll County Zoning Administrator. So, to my understanding, the 2 Mile P and Z or the zoning commission that you guys have got involved because they were looking for a rezoning request, correct? Not the building permit, but the rezoning request. And I think that's where we were talking is when they got involved, is when
Right.
they did that request to change it from ag to,
Right, I
Commercial,
understand
industrial?
that. That's why this is a flow chart for a zoning request or rezoning, not the process for acquiring a building permit.
Okay. On the top, it
Oh,
does say
maybe come
2
up-
mile zone permit, so,
No, maybe
Right.
rethink what you're proposing. I appreciate your efforts, but yeah, that's not how the process works.
okay, so can you explain to me how the 2 mile zone permit works then?
There,
What's that?
I
well, it
think those go to
goes,
Perry, those are building permits that
Yeah.
go to Perry.
Perry,
And then he approves or denies them.
right.
Okay,
It-
that's what I'm saying. If someone can explain to us in here, that'd be great. We're here to have an open conversation. Explain to us how this works then. Is this false? If this is false?
So the zoning permit portion of it, or a zoning classification, is accurate.
Okay,
If somebody wants to rezone from A1 to commercial,
Yep.
then that's when the zoning portion comes in. If it's simply a building permit, then that starts with Perry, and then if there's a question as far as whether or not it does or does not meet building code, then we have its own separate building, what is it?
Code,
Building code committee that actually, who are all builders within the community that then look at the building permit and look at what's being requested as kind of an oversight of what Perry makes those decisions on a building permit.
okay, so for 2 mile zone, this is, for
So-
zoning, and this is still correct.
For
But
zoning,
on
it is
building
accurate,
permit-
correct.
Correct.
Building permit,
Correct.
correct.
yeah.
Perfect.
So I guess what I see from it is you guys are trying to take it down to 1 mile.
Correct?
And then within,
Either abolish it or take it down to 1 mile,
it currently covers 28 miles, I believe,
28 and a half miles.
28 and a half miles, and that would take it down to what? What would it be?
11 and a half,
11, and what's the total size of Carroll? What, 7 miles?
6 and a half if you take all them little chopped up
We're
cuts.
still covering twice our, I mean, of our footprint, I guess we're still covering twice our footprint.
Well, if you talk about footprint in the county, they have us at 6.5 square miles. It's on Steph's
6.5,
data,
exactly what
right?
I just said.
And, right, on Steph's data,
Thank you for repeating that. I said 6.5,
yeah,
we're at 28, it would take it down to 11.5.
right,
You still tracking on those numbers?
right,
Okay, yeah,
Sure.
just wanna make sure you're still tracking on those numbers.
Right.
Which is still almost twice the size of our current, just under twice the size of what we have. Correct, so the numbers are
Yeah.
correct.
when you consider our 6.5 miles, and then I think, I gotta find Steph's memo.
Go ahead, we'll wait.
When you add in the 28.5, you come up with 35 total miles, square miles that are under our jurisdiction. That is 6% of the total square miles in the county. Our 6.5 square miles represents 1% of the total square miles in the county. So by having that 2 mile addition, that gets us up to about, let's see, 35 square miles, which gives us 6% of the total square miles in the county.
But this mile would then leapfrog as far as we extend it, my understanding is that it would leapfrog from there.
It would continue
It
to
would
extend
continue to
as we
extend as
extend.
we extend, correct?
That's the way it's worded, and you guys make some sort of agreement.
Okay. Well, thank you for your facts as well, appreciate it.
Sarah, if I live outside the 2 mile, I go to the county to file a permit, who does the building inspection?
We don't have building inspection. You would still have to call the state of of Iowa, because they do an electric inspection, but that's it. As far as building codes, we don't have a building inspector.
How many times does that not happen?
But I've not gotten a building permit?
Yes. Okay. I was not elected when there was a grain leg issue by the airport, and I think that's, you know, much larger than this too, but, you know, where does a liability lay then too? You know, is there a building permit that is missed, an inspection that's missed? Who's liable for some of those things?
So when I pick up, in the country, the assessor's office goes around and picks up, you know, the new buildings and whatnot. We do have those that are permitted. If they did not get a permit, then they let me know. I send out a letter asking them to fill that out, get the specs, and then we go from there. Something we need to look at.
Does that happen how often in a year's time?
We've had a few. I don't have the exact numbers. I just took over as assessor. I just became the building administrator, February of
Okay,
January
you've
of
had some
23.
since
So,
then?
we did have a couple already this year that
Okay.
I've had to send out letters to.
So if you go to the quarter mile, you're gonna be doing the inspections then too?
We don't do building inspections at this point.
Well, it's gonna be the electrical only, you're saying?
It would be the state of Iowa. The county doesn't do any inspections.
So, when I look at the planning and zoning, if I'm agriculture, I mean, can I put a hog barn on that piece of property a quarter mile from Carroll?
As long as it's okay with the DNR and the master matrix.
Okay,
1250 feet.
so that is my personal hangup on a quarter mile, for the citizens of Carroll, of having a hog barn. I found a couple other communities out there that have had those issues, that did not have this in place, so, I mean,
I would agree with you, but I also want to appreciate his coming in here, because if we don't come to an agreement, then it's gonna be at the quarter mile. From the way that I'm reading this thing, and, I think a quarter mile is, just from my standpoint at the city, is way too small, a quarter mile. Just because we obviously live in a livestock community. So I appreciate you guys coming in here and presenting this to us so that we can come to some type of agreement on this to get whether it's a mile or whatever it may be, so.
so, on the state side of things, on a state building inspection, when I have a building complete or the process through, how long does it take for a state building inspector to come out versus, say, Perry as a local one?
I can answer that, and it's not a building inspection, it's an electrical inspection.
And
It's
it's-
not building.
Normally fast in my line of work.
That helps.
So, one of my questions was going to be, you gave us two options. Do you have a preference here, which one ends up being? If I heard Jeff right, you said something about not in that order, and that's what occurred to me is, you don't have a preference for one or the other, and then maybe that's not
We
the
just-
time for
we
you
wanna-
to express that, but if you
No,
feel
we're not
comfortable
interested.
doing it.
We wanna work together, make something work. I think it's, in my eyes, it's an outreach right now. There's just too many miles getting covered here.
In your eyes, is a quarter mile too small, as Jason said for his
Certain
opinion.
scenarios, yes.
I have a few questions for you, and maybe Steph, you can jump in too. Sarah, anything. I read very carefully your detailed letter. I appreciate that. But I need some beef on the bone, so to speak. So I have a few questions, but I want to quote part of the letter so you know where my questions are coming from. Okay, the 10/4/24 supervisor's letter to the city and elected officials regarding the 28E agreement states, and I quote, April 1st, 2024, a packed community building filled with concerned citizens of Carroll County met in Litterdale, Iowa, to discuss and address many scenarios that they have endured within the 2-mile radius that borders the city of Carroll. Since the initial meeting, they have gathered multiple times, brought their concerns to the Board of Supervisors meetings, and delivered a petition to the Board of Supervisors with 120 plus minus signatures on it. Here's what I need, so I have solid information, so I know the problems that we are addressing, the specific problems. because I'm taking this essentially 40-year longevity of this 2080 agreement very seriously because it has endured. Here are my questions. Number one, what specific problems have the Carroll County citizens, quote, endured within the 2-mile radius, end of quote? And what are the specific, quote, concerns they brought to the Board of Supervisors? Because I figured there, it could have been 2 different discussions. That's my first question based on the introduction from your letter. Number 2, what specific sections of the city's zoning code that are relevant to the 2-mile 28E agreement have caused, quote, the problems and concerns? And I noticed you and Steph mentioned some concerns are irrelevant to the 2-mile agreement, some are very worthwhile. So I'm picking up on, I want to know what you're talking about. Number 3, what petition were the county residents asked to sign? What did it say? What was the verbiage? What were they signing on to so we get a grasp of what they're going for? And how many of the petitioners reside in the 2-mile area? Finally, and thanks for your patience, how do the 2 options you are giving us for consideration solve the, quote, problems and, quote, concerns of the county citizens versus the status quo?
Read that number 5 again, please. I'll
Okay,
write that down.
okay. How do the 2 options that you've listed for consideration solve the problems and concerns of the county citizens versus the status quo? Because I know Sarah's mentioned at your August 5th meeting, our zoning ordinances are very much alike, only a couple differences.
Correct.
Thank you.
Want to start answering them, or you want to, or you want to?
Yeah, well, yeah, we need, yeah.
I want to thank you for your questions. I wanted to clarify here real quick. This isn't actually how we wanted this meeting to go down.
Not at all.
And it wasn't even our recommendation to come into a public meeting right away. And to be very frank, I was a little hard on the city manager when I said you need to look in the dictionary the word of a conversation. We don't want to be here to attack. We don't want to draw. We don't want to air dirty laundry. That's not what we do out here in the government. That's not what you're supposed to do. I think the biggest issue with the constituents is there was probably a little bit of government overreach. And to answer, I got to go back to number 1. Their concerns, again, government overreach. And how some of the participants that maybe went through the process didn't answer questions correctly. They didn't handle themselves correctly. And were not approachable. I think that's a good way to put that.
What process, Steph? You know more than me. I'm here to learn.
But I'm also not going to say anybody's names and
Oh,
put
no,
them on
I
the
don't
bus.
want
I
names,
refuse to
but-
do that.
Yeah.
And I can sit down with you outside of this meeting, like your
asked.
city manager actually proposed.
You're referring to city staff is what you're referring to. We're not approachable.
Or even the process in itself, because again, I'm not going to air dirty laundry. That's
Yeah,
not how we
that-
do
No,
business.
nobody's asking you to, Steph, and I really don't like that tone. You can't, just like a doctor can't treat a patient if the patient doesn't share full disclosure symptoms. We can't attempt to solve the problems and work together on solutions
Yeah.
if we aren't told what the problems are. That's all I was asking, not names, not, but I'm merely.
No, I appreciate it, Carolyn. I really do. I appreciate
I'm
the
just
questions. I don't mean
reading
to
your
come off in a different way.
question, But,
Without
I-
airing dirty.
yeah, go
Well,
ahead, Mike.
One thing I want to say is, we have created a situation where you have to come in and lie about your permit and what you're going to build to get it built in the 2-mile.
So
And-
this is a big thing with the permits then? Okay,
Correct, and what's getting built, what's not.
okay.
There's stuff getting built right now that shouldn't be getting built in the 2 mile. In my eyes, I want it all built, sorry. I don't know how to say that without getting in trouble. I'm here to create tax base and I want everyone to live the American dream and build their business. That doesn't bother me. But picking and choosing who gets to build in the 2 mile is not what we're here for.
Is that something you feel that we've done?
Correct,
Our staff has picked,
yes.
okay.
Timelines. Everybody knows, money is not free. Interest is not free. Holding projects up costs money. Everybody knows that. That's a concern, and that's happened.
I mean, at a minimum, I think that we can probably do a better job as city staff and work through Aaron to make sure that, you know, what I mean, we don't want anyone to feel as if they're being stifled or stopped from living the American dream. That is not where we're elected or put here. And so I think that's an internal conversation that I guess that we kind of need to have to see what are some things, and if you could provide us with some specifics as far as why you're feeling that way. I mean, I think that Aaron would be more, you know, I mean, I could even pioneer it myself to ensure that like these things are not being held up or there's some kind of personal vendetta or whatever it may be, whatever it is that you're talking about, you know. We can at a minimum do that, and I think immediately we need to start doing that, and so.
So concerns, that's some of them. Specific zoning sections. My rebuttal to that is if we have the same zoning, why don't you just let us take it? I mean, we have the exact same, basically the same zoning. Petition for county residents and how many reside in the 2 mile, I would have to go through and count them. The 2 mile, the petition had, things that were not accurate and there was things that were accurate. Currently, there's no county permit fees. There is fees. That was one of the things in there. Unless you are ag exempt, then there's not a fee.
And they are different than the city.
Can
Yes.
Those are
you
different.
read what they signed? I mean, can you read what's on the petition? Like, I have no clue
just a
what
paragraph
the
or is it-
petition.
No, it's a full page.
Full page.
Yeah,
You wanna?
I can scan this to you.
disseminate it to-
Yes.
Yeah,
let's have
that-
that.
I'll scan it.
Let's just get copies so we can
Yes,
see it if that's all right with you.
Yeah.
correct.
That'd be
And then
helpful.
I think,
Not for tonight, but
Carol, I
it'd be
think
helpful to read it later.
your question number 3, I hope this answers it. I think their end result, what they would like to see happen with that petition was to abolish completely the 2 mile.
But they weren't asked, do you want it abolished? That was not the question.
They want the 2
They
mile
want the 2
radius
mile
gone.
abolished.
And that's what I just wanna know, what did the petition say? Like, I took petitions around, you want a sidewalk on your street? They knew, and they'd say yes, no.
I mean, I don't disagree. Like, I'm not opposed to like bringing this back, like cutting it back to the 1/4 mile or even the mile like you have proposed, but I'm kind of like blind and I have no idea what that petition said, but you want me to just take your word? Like, what does it say?
Is that a copy?
So why don't they send us the petition so that you all can have that and review it? We'll set up a
You don't
work
need to read
session.
it tonight unless you
No.
want. If you prefer
No,
to, that's fine.
that's
but I don't, it'd take you a while, so.
I'm going to be honest, there's a lot of code referencing too, as well.
Oh, that's good.
So
I mean, the more we know, the better we can work.
She likes
together.
I figured she would like that.
What?
I said you like that.
He said he liked that. I said, yeah, I figured she would like that. There is a lot of code referencing,
I
but
enjoyed being on P and Z a long time ago.
I have one quick question. So like, with everything we govern between city and county, we all have the same differences or the same rules that apply. What are the ones that stand out that we need to change or look at or do that's different? I mean, obviously, let's say there's 50 things. Is there 2 things? Is there 5 things, 10 things that are different between the county and city? What is it that's standing out that really needs to be abolished?
Tom, I don't think it's anything. I think it's the fact that if I come in here and I live in the 2 mile and I want to build a shop
Yeah.
to farm, truck, build parts, I don't know, make blankets.
Yes.
But I can do it. It's my soil. I can do what I want
Correct.
within reason, right?
Right.
And we do that outside that 2 mile radius, and you drive around, there's shops all over this place. There's businesses on every farm. I own one, okay? I'm running a business on my farm. Everybody knows it, right?
I run one too.
Okay, exactly. So that's called the American dream. Now, telling us what we can do and these guys can do within the 2 mile bothers me. Bothers a lot of people.
Is that a zoning thing or is that a building
Yeah.
permit thing? Because I think that they're getting confused.
Cause,
They're-
well, here, the other part of that is
Like, I don't disagree. I
If-
understand what you're saying,
if
but
ours-
It's a
I
gray
think that
area
we're
in the-
confusing the two.
It's a gray area in that zoning, if you ask me.
So-
It's who wants to let what go through, is
So-
my opinion. So
The-
what if,
the
hold on a
zonings
second.
are-
If we
okay.
don't, one second, if we don't make amends to this, I tell everybody on that 2 mile to go in and tell them you're making an egg building. Sign a paper saying you're putting an egg in there. If that's what they have to do it, and lie to get it through, it's not right, but that is my opinion. Go ahead.
So basically, the 2080 allows us to administer the zoning. Of course, a part of our zoning is we have a building code that is the state of Iowa's building code, not ours. It's the state of Iowa's that we administer. Now, the zoning side of things, which is kind of my question, if we don't have a zoning enforcement side, what's gonna happen in in the areas where we're not administering? Who's gonna check on the zoning, making sure people are doing what they're saying they're doing? Because then, if you're not enforcing your zoning, you're opening yourselves up to a lawsuit. Because that's what the rules are set, so then the county's opened up for a lawsuit for not enforcing that. That's why we send our building code guys out to check on buildings, making sure that they're doing what they're saying they're gonna do.
Yep.
So that's a concern of mine. If we say, okay, we won't look at the mile outside of, for a mile, well, who's gonna police that mile then? So, to make sure what they're doing is what they're saying they're doing, right?
Policing the 3rd mile.
Nobody.
So, I mean,
And-
it's no different because as we.
There's a lot
But,
of nice houses out there.
they're violating zoning
Here's the
then.
thing, but as we grow, let's say we grow a mile, that 3 miles, the 3rd mile has been out there fine, unabated and done what it needed to do, and we're still gonna make it work. I mean, in that argument, like, that 3rd mile, nobody's doing it, it's all fine, so,
Maybe you're
that's just a different avenue approach to think of it. That 3rd mile is gonna be fine once we grow the extra mile. When we go from 6 to 7 miles, that 3rd mile still is, you know what I mean? I mean, where does it end? I guess it's like,
All right, is there any other questions up here from us?
You know, and I appreciate your guys' questions. They're all great,
Yeah.
great questions. That's why we wanted to open this up to a conversation, because every single person up here, you guys are gonna think of different ideas or different scenarios that we would come up with. Kyle had a great one with the hog confinement. Carol and Eve had great ones. I mean, they're good
Well,
questions.
I just feel like I need to understand
If you need
this
more
better.
context, we can. We can send that,
No,
petition that went around?
Tell me if I'm hearing you two right, that mainly since our zoning is so similar and the 2080 agreement says, it lists for intent and purposes, that when we enter into this 2080 agreement, that the county zoning and building permit authority within the 2 miles is surrendered. And then it goes through like that zoning flow we talked about. So, but what I'm hearing on the zoning is very similar, except I think Sarah, I had her summarize some concerns from the August 5th meeting, which I watched. And she said they're very similar except for setbacks. And then, Sarah, what was the other thing? Setbacks and,
building permit prices.
Building permit price, and then if you were to do a certain business, we allow X amount of employees and the city allows.
that,
a
oh,
different
yeah,
amount of
it was the
employees, which is actually
enterprise.
less. It was actually
Right.
less in the county.
Yeah, we allow for more employees,
Like 15,
and
I think
then
we're not.
20,000 square foot building. So what I'm hearing is the permit process or how, decision-making, that it has kind of gone off the tracks.
Correct.
Okay,
Excuse me, correct, yes.
okay. So the zoning, when I asked my question, what specific sections of the zoning relevant to the 2-mile agreement has caused problems? You mentioned some of the concerns were relevant to the zoning, but there aren't really many, or there are?
Sorry, say it again, Carolyn, I
Well,
lost you there.
the zoning, any part of our zoning ordinance, it's the A2 that really is relevant to the 2-mile.
Yeah.
Any part of that
Zo-
that you want to discuss with us?
Zoning, I don't think is as big a, question as.
Okay,
We have, the county has no say in zoning. Besides, we appoint the supervisors appoint, 2 people on the P and Z for the 2-mile. That's all the say we have in tax-based buildings that are getting built in our area, in our county. Everything else is through the city.
okay.
So we have a 2080 agreement between us, and we have 2 appointed people on the 2-mile P and Z. Other than that, we have no say, and there's 7 on there.
Yeah, and you have 2 people, I mean, it's in the code of Iowa. You have 2 people on the city board of adjustment from the 2-mile area.
Yep.
As well as P and Z.
Yep.
Right.
So in our eyes, the city has basically full control of anything that happens in that 2 miles, even though it's a joint agreement. And I think that changed in the, well, I put it in the paperwork. In the new March 6, 1991, from the prior one, which was in 1984. So I feel,
What changed at that time? Did you research that?
yeah, it's in the, it's in the original 2080.
All right, any other questions?
Yeah, I do. You're thinking about going to the 1/4 mile. You had mentioned that.
Okay.
So if that's done, that really affects a lot of people that live next to the city limits. Has anybody asked those people what their feelings is? I mean, you got the feelings from all the people in the 2 mile, but what about the people right next to the city limits that could, like Kyle said, 1/4 mile away, have a hog confinement? You know, if you're gonna think about the 1/4 mile, I think those people should be asked. My opinion, that's only,
Just the first 1/4 mile you're saying, Laverne?
next to the city limits.
Yep.
Everybody that's in the city limits,
Yep.
next to it. You know, I would think they would like to know if a hog confinement can be next to them a 1/4 mile, what their feelings are. You know, I think some homework needs to be done there. And what about the landowners that are next to that? The landowners that are in that 1 mile?
What, right now, it's my understanding, you can build a hog or cattle barn in that 2 mile if you're ag exempt, if you're within the legal distance by DNR, right now, it wouldn't change nothing.
Mr. Mayor.
All right.
Madam Chair.
County Attorney.
This building down and building hog barns next to the city, let's just forget that. They'll never pass the DNR matrix. That is just a phony issue, nothing.
Just, yeah, for the record, people are listening.
I'm John Worden, I'm the Carroll County Attorney.
Thank you.
Nobody's gonna put hogs and cattle next to the city of Carroll, it doesn't exist. You gotta pass the Department of Natural Resources matrix test. The idea that somebody's gonna be putting hogs right next to the golf course, I mean, come on, this is just figments of somebody's imagination, so let's get down to that. Number 2, keep in mind, I kinda started this ball. What we have now is an illegal agreement. I didn't write it, I'm glad I didn't. It rounds up the 2 miles, which I think is totally illegal. I told the Board of Supervisors early this spring, this agreement's gonna get changed one way or the other. Somebody's gonna have to declare that the mileage in the agreement is invalid, maybe invalid for all purposes, or we're gonna get some new agreement. The agreement itself is illegal. It extends out beyond 2 miles. Someone had the whiz-bang idea back in the 80s of rounding up, which I think is totally illegal. That was before Dave and my time, so we're not
How would
gonna.
they round up from 2 miles? How does that end up
Get
higher?
me, whoever wrote it. It says, whenever the 2 miles is within a section, the majority of the section, you round up. Crazy. So I've told the supervisors from many months ago, this agreement needs to be fixed one way or the other. I'm not part of the 1 or 2 mile or whatever you want to do discussion, but the agreement's going to get changed. And when they get changed with some competent jurisdiction just declaring it illegal, and I don't think that's in anyone's best interest. So that's what I wanted to throw in. Thank you.
All right.
John, isn't it in, I think it's in Iowa Code Chapter 414 to round up. If,
No, it's not.
I know I
You have to
read
give
it.
me that code section, Carolyn.
Yeah,
No,
I
it's
will.
not.
I'll check.
No, well, I have, and it's not.
All right. Or anybody over here? Anybody over here? Thanks for your time.
So, quick question.
Okay.
Well, is there a reason that the county does not have a building inspector? And 2, will they ever intend on getting one?
No.
So, if I put a building on my property and it's not found for 5 or 6 years,
It's found every year. We have people drive around every year.
okay.
Now granted, there are some that
Sneak by.
human error does exist.
So they go by every year and check for, we want that tax base.
We also do not have building codes in Carroll County, that's why we don't have, we didn't adopt building
Say that
codes.
louder, please.
We didn't adopt building codes in our zoning ordinance, so we don't have any codes that they have to actually follow. So that would be the reason for a building inspector, so as far as the whole, having to have one, we don't have those adopted in our ordinance right now.
So define a building then in the county. Is it something that's in ground, on top of the ground?
We do
Is
have
it a
berm
grain
houses.
bin?
We have berm houses, we have grain bins, we have.
Is that all considered building though? I'm
Yeah,
just asking a
we do
question.
have berm houses, yeah,
Okay.
in Carroll County. But we do drive the country, every country road, every fall in the assessor's office to pick up what we don't get. Those letters do go out to those individuals.
That's for tax purposes, you mean? It's not.
No, it's from it comes from the building permit department to get the information that was not obtained before building, and to let them know that they didn't obtain the proper channels.
Okay, and if I heard you right before, that it's not an infrequent thing.
It does happen. This is my first time seeing it as the assessor. I think I've gotten 4, 5, and I'm working through the townships. I'm only on Glidden right now,
Okay.
so I can get better numbers after we're all done in the country
You're saying 4 or 5 total building permits
that were missed.
that were missed? Okay.
Yes.
In a month or 2 roughly? 2 months?
She's
Well-
new to her position.
Yeah, 2 months roughly.
This would be for the whole year. We
for the
haven't
whole-
driven since
gotcha.
last year,
Gotcha.
so they drive
Yeah.
every fall. We have not driven since last fall.
So what I'll do is I will send you guys the petition that we received. And then I think we can do potentially if you guys want to have it again in an open meeting, we were willing to do 2 supervisors, 2 council members, however you guys want to proceed. But I really, really would like it to be sooner than later.
Yeah.
Because this has been on our wheelhouse for a while.
Well, if you're gonna
And
have
I
it-
do apologize, my mistake, to Carolyn and the council members for not sending the petition.
Steph, if you're gonna have an open meeting, you gotta have 4 council members.
That was an option.
Okay.
We can have a work session, we can have an open
Yeah,
meeting,
that's fine.
however you guys want to proceed, but let's do it sooner than later.
I would say we as a council need to have a work session, to discuss, and then I think we would probably decide in that work session how we want to respond back to the supervisors. And then we can proceed from there.
Okay. Is there anything else you want
That's it.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
We'll move on to resolutions. The first resolution is West Gulfview subdivision. anything you wanna present, or it's, you can ask for a motion?
Yeah, we had a consideration for, one council member wanted to consider a motion for reconsideration. I don't know if we'll have one or not.
All right, so what we would need is
No.
to continue on the West Gulfview subdivision is a motion to reconsider proposals submitted previously at the September 23rd council meeting. Is there a motion to that effect? It would have to come from someone who, am I understanding that right? It would have to come from someone who voted no at the time?
Yep.
Yes. That is correct? Okay. Anybody? No motions? No motions? Okay. Then we will move on to B. Here we go. 1.55 million subject to adjustment for terms of offering general obligation urban renewal capital loan notes, series 2024B, CBD, street resurfacing and US 30 traffic signals. And I believe that's it.
Yes.
Okay.
So we previously held the public hearing. This is the next step in the process to issue the debt, which would be to approve this resolution directing for the sale and then approving that it's, that the council recommends using or allowing the use of what's called the parity competitive bidding system or an electronic system. As well as you are also approving the preliminary official statement, which is basically in terms of offering and a lot of information about the city that would go to, that goes to potential bidders on this.
Hey, guys, we're still in a meeting. We're still in a meeting, guys.
Yeah, just
Thank you. Should I do it to all of them? Sorry.
I think I lost it, Laura, sorry, can you start over?
Yes. So we recently, last council, meeting, held a public hearing to issue this debt for the Central Business District street resurfacing 2024 project, as well as design services for the US 30 traffic signals project. This next step includes a couple of items where it would approve the use of what's called the parity competitive bidding system or an electronic system. This can also be able to reach more potential bidders for the debt, as well as distributing the preliminary official statement. That statement does list a number of items about the city and just general information and facts about the city, as well as what are the terms of offering for this debt issuance. We have worked with PFM, our financial advisor, as well as our bonding attorney for this official statement, but it's ultimately council's authority, responsibility to deem it final and put it part of this distribution. The bid opening is scheduled for 10 a.m. on October 28th, which is our next council meeting. Bids, PFM will review them and then make a recommendation at that council meeting that night. So looking for a motion to approve this resolution in this next step for the debt issuance.
So moved.
Second.
any discussion at all? All right, a roll call vote, please.
Shrek?
Yes.
Dirk?
Yes.
Bordenero?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Atherton?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
All right, next one is roof replacement projects. And Randy?
Would you go for the public hearing?
Yeah, we can do that, if you're ready.
Yes.
Yep, okay. We'll open a public hearing. It is 6:05 PM.
The plans and related documents for the roof replacement project have been submitted by McClure Engineering. The plans illustrate roof replacements on 21 buildings owned by the city, 16 within the city itself, and 5 at the airport. The roofs include certainly asphalt shingle roofs, metal roofs, and EPDM or membrane roofs in total. I've listed each of the buildings that is included in the project. I won't go through those. And there are also a location map for those. Specifications are the statewide urban specification with city supplemental and project development specifications. Contract is the form of contract from the statewide urban design specification we've used fairly consistently. And the estimated cost of the project is $697,180.58. We anticipate bid receipt on October 22nd and award or a consideration of award at your next regular meeting on the 28th with a completion by July 1 of 2025. Unless there are any questions, I'd recommend finishing the public hearing and then consider adopting the plans for the roof replacement project.
How much of insurance covers this?
This, at that number, insurance should cover all of it.
It should cover it all?
They'll cover that number. We'll see what the bids are.
Oh, to have that guy back in here.
All right, any questions from anybody here about what Randy just presented? And no questions here for Randy? I'll look for a motion to, oh, I'm sorry.
We need to close the public hearing.
I'll need to close the public hearing. It is 6:07 PM. Now I'll look for a motion to approve the specifications, form, contract, and estimated cost of the roof replacements project as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
All right, Kyle
Second.
and JJ seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Bauer,
Yes.
Seaman,
Yes.
Fornero,
Yes.
Atherton.
Yes.
Dirk,
Yes.
Schreck.
Yes.
Resolution's approved.
Thank you. And we'll move on to development agreement for a county catalyst building remediation grant.
Thank you, Mayor. As council's aware, 504 Holdings LLC received a community catalyst building redemption grant from Iowa Economic Development Authority. It's actually an emergency catalyst, so it's outside the normal process of the catalyst grant application process. The majority of the project is underway. We do need to get a development agreement in place. Development agreement, it defines the scope of work as creation of 2 large windows, new entrance on Adams Street, installation of new exterior lighting, new awnings, creation of 2 retail stores off Adams Street. The developer shall commit a minimum of $300,000 to be used to cover any expenses exceeding the grant funds and the city commitment. This project for them to remodel the entire building is in excess of $500,000. The $100,000 from the city and the $100,000 from Iowa Economic Development Authority are parts of that project. I would recommend council to approve the resolution approving the development agreement so that we can move forward with and finalizing this grant process.
I have a question real quick just on this, because it's my first year. Normally when we do these, is there an assessed value that they need to hit when we do these grants?
I can't say on a catalyst grant. I don't believe so. It's an application that we say we're going to match to the catalyst, and then the state normally approves the grant and the process. So I don't think we normally do the assessed value with this project, type of project.
Only question, thank you.
Anything else? I'll look for a motion to approve the development agreement with 504 Holdings LLC for community catalyst building remediation grant. Is there a motion?
So moved.
JJ, Carolyn is second. Roll call, please.
Dirks,
Yes.
Seaman,
Yes.
Fornero,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Atherton.
Yes.
Schreck.
Yes.
Motion's approved.
All right, move on to reports and Adams Street reconstruction change order number 4, and Randy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. During construction of the Adams Street project, it was discovered that the location record for a sanitary sewer service serving 111 West 13th Street was incomplete. The service line location was not found during excavation, and it was concluded at that point that it was connected to a joint service line that serve properties west of 111 West 13th Street. Part of that joint service line was replaced during the project, and again, that connection to 111 West 13th was not found. After the fact, it was determined that 111 West 13th service line was not connected where it had been concluded to be, and it required reconnection to the joint service line. Change order number 4 that's before you includes the cost of connection of that service line to the sanitary sewer. That is in the amount of $3,487.50. And that would bring the total contract price to $3,572,176.02. And no change in contract time is included in the change order. Unless there are any questions, I'd recommend your consideration of approval of the change order at the amount as an increase in the contract price.
Questions? Is there a motion, please? Anyone want to make a motion for that?
So moved.
Okay, Carolyn made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
And Kyle seconded.
Was this originally part of the plan? I guess that's where I'm kind of lost. Was this a part of the plan and now it's, how was this missed, I guess? Is it them or us, or, I hate when we have to pay when they miss something.
No.
When we miss something, I don't mind it.
Right. It was not part of the plan.
Okay.
Like I say, the record that was used to prepare the plan was not complete.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Atherton?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Bornero?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Schreck?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to water distribution main replacements, 2023, change order number 2. And Randy, you're back.
Thank you, Mayor. During construction of the water main replacement project, we encountered some subsurface conditions that were not anticipated. And as a result, there were 2 locations where we had to do quite a bit of extra plumbing in order to get the new water main connected to the existing. One was at First and East Streets, where there was an extensive need for additional plumbing to make that connection. The second was on US 30 east of Grant Road, where the new main was installed to avoid some existing utilities, and as a result, there were fittings needed to realign that portion with the planned portion of the water main. Change order number 2 includes the cost of those additional fittings that were needed at those 2 locations in the amount of $10,766.20. Approval of that would bring the total contract to $535,676.20. And no contract time, or no increase in contract time is included in this change order. Unless there are any questions, I'd recommend your consideration of the approval of the change order number 2 to the water main distribution replacement project.
So moved.
No questions?
Don't you have to have the dollar figure in your motion?
I'll read that one.
Okay.
Okay. All right, if there are no other questions, we will look for a motion to approve the number 2 and the change order number 2 to the water distribution main replacements project in the amount of $10,766.20 as an increase in the contract price.
So moved.
Tom and Jason second. Roll call vote, please.
Schreck?
Yes.
Bornero?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Atherton?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
All right, we have to now go to the City of Carroll renovations at Burchens Park project, change order number 2. This time we go to Chad.
Chad's sick, so I'm gonna fill in with the memo.
During the construction project, there were two items that were, I would say, needed to be addressed. The first was the concrete bleacher pad reinforcing. The concrete pad underneath the soon-to-be aluminum bleachers have been adjusted to meet and guarantee warranty requirements by the bleacher company. And the safety netting system, after discussing with the engineers and Baden Construction, they determined that it would be safe and to remove a couple of the poles for stabilization and actually use the structure of the stadium itself. The concrete pad reinforcement added $3,700 to the overall project, while the safety netting system deletion actually decreased the cost by $2,300 for a total increased cost of $1,357. After the change order one, where we reduced the cost by $3,000, this increase is about $1,300.57. We are still in the positive, I would say, as far as deducting costs off of this overall project. So I would look for a motion to accept change order number 2 for Carroll Merchants Park.
Second.
All right, we'll look for a motion. The motion will include approval of change order number 2 for the Merchants Park Improvement Project in the amount of $1,357. And I believe, Tom, you're going to make a motion.
So moved.
And JJ.
JJ made the second. Roll call vote, please.
Atherton?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Wardenhour?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Trapp?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
All right, we have committee reports that you can all take care of and read on your own. I have no comments from the mayor this evening, and none from the city council. I have no comments. How about from the city manager?
I have a couple comments. Would it be okay to set a work session for next week, Monday, for discussing of the 2080 agreement
What
for the
time?
council?
What time?
Yeah.
We just got a 3:30 email from Kimberly.
Correct. Normal council meeting time would be 5:15.
Will it be done by then? Okay.
And then that would be my next thing. We have back in the spring, we were talking about the downtown facade projects. We were also talking about the marketing for the council, or for the city, and particularly the downtown wayfinding work. That gentleman is going to be here next week, and I think you sent the email out for what time was it?
3:30.
3:30 to meet with him as a council. If you can make it, that would be great.
Next Monday?
Next week, Monday.
So we need to set a meeting to be with that?
We will set a public meeting because we'll have
Okay.
enough. And then we could probably set the work session right after that one to discuss the 2080 also.
Or what do you anticipate for the length of a discussion to kind of keep everything
An hour?
concise?
Yes.
An hour?
Yeah, I would think we would discuss with him for an hour only. And then I would think we could be fairly concise
No,
with the
I
20.
mean for the work session.
I would say an hour. We can be fairly
For both
concise.
sections, for both items.
I would say probably push more towards 2 hours then.
Yeah.
Okay,
Pizza.
hour and a half.
Pizza.
All right,
We're gonna have 2.
I'll find pizza for you.
All right, so
Bob, you can smoke some brisket or something.
you'll just set out a meeting. We don't need to vote on this.
Yeah.
Of course.
And then the
We're
last,
just making sure that.
Yes.
I didn't hear for sure that everybody can make 3:30 on the 21st? Okay. All right.
I'm gonna say unknown for 3:30. I have stuff that I have to prep for and unknown.
understood.
Okay.
Some of us have lives, some of us don't.
Shut up.
I don't.
You're referring to me.
No, I wasn't.
Oh, yeah.
And then the last thing is I gave you a copy of the county supervisors are going to be doing a cleaning of drainage ditch 77. And if you look on the map, that is the area that they are going to be cleaning. They are not going to be going into Grant Park. So I would like to do, I already had Chad checking to see what it would cost for us to clean up Graham Park all the way down to the Highway 30. Whether it be with the inmates from Rockwell City, I believe, or maybe even jumping onto the quote or the bid from the county supervisors. I'll check on those costs and get that back to you.
What was the reason they stopped?
Yeah.
I can't answer that off the top of my head.
I
There's a
thought they-
reason, but I don't remember off the top of my
Well,
head.
they kind of explained it to me. They feel that there are impediments up north of 12th Street that would prevent the water flow.
Yeah.
And their belief is that what's on the Grant Road, or on Grant Road that we are talking about is not an impediment, therefore it's not their
So,
responsibility.
If you
So
look
more
up,
co-
like,
more
behind
cosmetic
18,
than anything.
Like, if you look
Okay.
behind Fairview, it's all completely brush and overgrown, like really bad. And I'm guessing with all the work they just did in Grant Park on the creek bed and stuff there not that long ago, it kind of cut it back down, would be
I
my
think
guess.
it looks like.
I mean, it does,
Well, we
but
could-
it's not as bad as what it is up on the north.
I thought they were in charge of counties were in charge of all drainage
they are.
districts.
They are, but it's only if there's,
Only if there's an.
Drainage
the word I used was
issues or-
impediment,
Oh.
and
Yeah.
there's a drainage issue
Well,
up there.
oh.
This is not this is them saying
Okay.
this. That's not a drainage issue.
so it's more cosmetic. So I would
Right.
say we could,
Well, here, Randy,
Work
when
with
we
them.
did this, it was expensive. It was a part of the whole Grand Park area, Merchants Park. Weren't you in charge of when we did the stream bed stabilization? No? Who was?
he got,
Parks and Rec.
Oh, Parks and Rec?
Right, but
Randy
that
dodged
was
a bullet
much more
there.
expensive. This is just
dodged a
removing-
bullet there.
Well,
Right.
well, here is my question. It is so overgrown. It is terrible. And I had people complaining to me all summer. And Chad had his people mow in closer. It's too dangerous to go down. But what it looks like is there's so much growth, it's like destabilized. You know what I'm saying? The rocks that are there, it doesn't look like it's effective anymore. And I can't remember what we paid for it, but it wasn't cheap. And it just looks like it's not doing what it's supposed to do anymore because all the growth and some
up
of
through
it's
the rocks,
through the rocks, and it's just like deteriorated, so it's not effective. I don't know, so maybe
This is
when
crazy. Can you do a controlled burn there?
I,
now.
yeah, get Dan
Do a
on
controlled
it.
burn, then we can at least see what's underneath there.
Well,
Well, it's all.
I mean, my
big rock,
thought
white
was to
rock.
get some of the folks from Rockwell City to come in with weed whackers and just mow everything down. And then we
And
could,
see
then
what
we
we
could see
have,
what's
yeah.
underneath too. But it would clean up everything that's in the drainage ditch, so we don't have a lot of the growth up above. It would, as far as making it appear better, that would make it, give it a better appearance in the first place, and then we could go from there.
Do we have to
Right.
pay for them to come down here?
Yes, there's a cost.
Why don't you just burn it out then? It's free.
If you wanna
I'll leave it
burn
like
down the
that.
trapper's cabin there.
I
Let's do it.
Just-
I think we can
So-
control that, burn that out, can't we? Just see what's in there?
I think we'd have to talk to the fire chief to
We're the best
do a
firefighting in the
control
world.
burn.
Country.
But that's all I've got.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
Kyle made a motion to adjourn, and JJ seconded. I consent. All right.
That was yours.
Roll call vote, please.
Ford Darrell,
Yes.
Yes.
Shrek,
Yes?
Bauer,
Yes.
No.
Atherton.
I want to go now so I can get it in, yes.
You're adjourned.